Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimal Championship League for week number 1 of competition. I'm so happy to be back, and I'm sure that Aulz is glad as well. However, we gotta save our welcome for a little bit later on in the stream, as right now we are diving deep into this draft, starting us off the bad guys versus Ban Out Bunny. And so far, Hecarim, Xin Zhao removed from the pool from blue side alongside Emilio, and Ban Out Bunny is going to counter with a Gwen, a Viego, and a Xayah ban.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the more interesting matches of the early couple of weeks here, Nyarko, especially in the top lane. Shang-Di for the bad guys is ranked at Diamond 4. They are the cap exception for TBG, whereas Ban Out Bunny is only fielding a Gold 2 top laner. This is one of the highest rank-to-rank disparities that we will see in week 1, so I'm very interested in seeing how that shakes out here.
This is definitely going to be a tough one for Sebastian there. You could see that Gold 4 with 295 wins so far in rank. They're grinding it out, but unfortunately, climbing comes hard to all of us, and now they're going to face down a real challenge here. Let's see how aggressive they go through the top side on TBG. Ban Out Bunny. First going to focus bot, though, which I think makes a lot of sense. Spastic and Master of Targon are being given Zeri and Yuumi, respectively, and now the bad guys are going to respond with the Nautilus.
Yeah, Zeri Yuumi is an incredibly powerful combo, and when this combo pops off, it pops off hard. If Spastic can get a couple of kills early game, have that pocket Yuumi be able to move across the map and cut through members of the bad guys, this could be very dangerous. So for the bad guys, I'm going to have to expect Super Swaggy to come down, help Pants check and Zarkra a little bit to try and keep this Zeri in check.
It's going to be a little bit difficult, though, because I like the fact while Zeri and Yuumi are late game, they're being paired with one of the most dominant junglers in the game right now. It is Rek'Sai, and not only is this champion crazy strong mid, early, and late, but they are also one of the hardest ganking and greatest counter gankers in the game right now. So Stephen Hawking certainly is going to have quite a bit of weight put onto their shoulders, ensuring that they can maintenance the Zeri Yuumi lane. But if they can shut down this Nautilus and Jhin combo early, we certainly can see the bad guys struggle and fall behind.
Yeah, Rek'Sai with the new buffs apparently feels very, very good to longtime junglers and longtime players of Rek'Sai. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Stephen Hawking plays it. Not in their top 10 most played champs, however, with over 1,500 games of rank so far this season, I would suspect they've touched her once or twice here.
Level 1,497, by the way. This is a dedicated League of Legends player, and that reflects in the fact that they're committing to Ban Out Bunny and the OCL as a whole, so we hope to see more of them on the Rift, off the Rift. Just in general, they clearly are around the League community. Now, we're seeing the second phase of picks come through. It's an Ornn blinded for Ban Out Bunny, which I really like, just keeping that lane stable, but BOB apparently needs to be very well maintenance in both side lanes now, as not only is it the fact that they're going for Zeri Yuumi, but they also have that weak-sided Ornn top, having to face down and allowing the hands of Shang-Di, who we have already established as one of the best players from either of these teams right now. The Zyra also coming through is a very interesting choice. This could actually represent a flex of the Nautilus. Will be interesting to see what TBG does during the client draft phase, but Ban Out Bunny is going to round out everything with a Talia response. It's interesting that they go for this pick. I think that it is actually good at answering both Nautilus and Zyra. Zyra's a champion that's very immobile, so therefore the seismic shove combo into the Unraveled Earth could do a whole lot for Ban Out Bunny's mid laner. But Nautilus at the same time is going to be zoned a little bit by Talia. You don't want to get stunned by trying to dredge line her, and you could be into some awkward positions as well, as if you're using the dredge line to get away, it counts as a dash, and therefore if you throw it towards a wall trying to pull back from maybe a nasty trade, you're going to be in an awkward position.
That being said, I do want to mention here, looking a little bit deeper at the OPGGs, I'm not feeling as bad about this top lane as I did looking at the master sheet, Nyarko. Shang-Di has 2 accounts right now that are listed in OCL. One of them is a mid main, the other is an ADC main. So maybe a little bit easier for Sebastian here to survive in the top side. But absolutely in the mid lane, not a great matchup for the Nautilus, but I haven't seen a Zyra mid since season 6. God, I feel old.
I mean, it doesn't have to be Zyra mid. We're going to see what Koronic grabs right here, right now. But I do want to highlight also this Lee Sin that came through pretty early on in the draft phase. B1, in fact. The bad guys are not going to back down from the challenge of being up against Stephen Hawking 69, who is also, I think, pushing towards the rank cap for ban out Bunny. Super Swaggy is definitely going to be able to duel with him early, and like I said, counter ganking is going to be the name of the game here. Trap one another, try to figure out where exactly you want to shove through your advantage, because clearly while the bad guys wants to dominate top, they also have a relatively aggressive bent bot, especially now that it's confirmed that Zarkra is going to be on the Nautilus rather than just a poke-oriented champion like the Zyra. This means that Yuumi and Zeri are in fact going to be in danger, especially if they cannot manage the wave.
You know, I'm going to be controversial here. I don't like this. I don't like the Zyra going mid. I think having the combined lockdown of Jhin Zyra and letting the Lee Sin really carry the damage in the early gank spot would have been a little bit better. I'm not so sure that I like Zyra as a solo lane pick, especially with a Rek'Sai not being able to have any form of mobility or escape is dangerous in the mid lane in the modern day.
I would agree with that. I also think that Zyra has a very easy to proc CC chain with Jhin, where you're poking them with your plants. Jhin throws down a very hard to dodge W, and then from there, Zyra can walk up, get a root, and you are basically jamming into the Zeri Yuumi the same way that you can just by Nautilus landing a dredge line. And I think that the little bit of extra income that will go towards this tanky champion is really going to help TBG in situations where they're 4-1ing, which is most likely what's going to happen given the fact that they have Shangdi on this that really wants to stay in the side lanes. Meanwhile, BOB is going to be a little bit more compelled to fight a full-on front to back. And TBG won't have as much of a front now that Zarkra is going to be the one on the Nautilus. So I am going to be alongside you on this, Aulz. I'm a little bit concerned about this composition.
The plus side for it, though, is that it does spread out their damage profile a little bit. You will have the Zyra doing actual damage. And when you're building into an Ornn, who is one of the tankiest champions on the Rift, courtesy of those ornaments, and a Rek'Sai who will be building likely that bruiser-fighter mix that we have seen from Rek'Sai for a few seasons now, having that little bit of extra damage to help cut through her thick carapace might be valuable when you have a Jhin as your main source of damage elsewise. So, positives and negatives here, Nyarko.
Positives and negatives for sure. I think that ban out Bunny is gambling with this composition. They have immense insurance in the late game, but the fact of the matter is, if your best lane is one that unfortunately lacks a little bit of agency by virtue of going something like Zeri Yuumi or early game Taliyah versus a champion that can in fact lock down someone who is on the flip side just as immobile as you are in the form of that Taliyah, I think that we could be in a situation where unfortunately Alawi is just going to be able to shine through. Yeah, maybe you have a little bit of confidence from the fact that Shangdi is getting a feel for top lane versus some of their other roles that they more main, but this isn't like transitioning from support to top lane or something like that, or jungle to mid lane. This is you playing another isolated 1v1 scenario, and now you can focus totally on your fundamentals, which are the things that I think are built up the most when you're pushing towards the level or rank cap here in the OCL. They're just fundamentally going to be doing a better job finding trades to go for against Ornn, and there's really not a whole lot that the Forge guy can do if this Alawi gets momentum.
Very fair. Well, as we head into spectator delay here and prepare to step aside, final thoughts, Nyarko. Who won draft?
In terms of who won draft, I think the ban out Bunny have just kind of gotten themselves the Voltron draft right now for where the meta is headed. Rek'Sai, Zeri, Yuumi, they have a Taliyah as a facilitator and an Ornn that is going to provide so much in the way of their upgraded items as long as they could stay alive. The bad guys are a little bit more all over the place, and they really have to smash this early for me to have confidence in them. But if they just simply think they're the better team, they could deservedly walk away with the first dub of this best of three. But honestly, Aulz, my main thoughts right now are just about how happy I am to be on OCL once again, and so glad to be alongside you. We also got someone else producing this time around, which is huge credit, by the way, man. I know that you were kind of carrying the whole broadcast last time, but getting that burden off your shoulders feels real good. But regardless, let's throw it over to a quick break so we can get ourselves sorted and get into game number one between the bad guys and ban out Bunny. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the OCL for game number 1 of week number 1 of session number 1. The bad guys versus Ban Out Bunny. And TBG on blue side are moving as 5. I think they just got sussed out by Rek'Sai, and if not, Sebastian is about to face down the might of all 5 blue squad members walking into this tri booth.
Yeah, Zarkra is going to go for the hook, but not find anything. Sebastian able to get around the wall in time. So they will get a little bit of knowledge here, a little bit of wards deep in to know about that red buff for the Rek'Sai. But on the other side, looks like Pebblist is going to get the ward trade. So all even on the Rifter in front here in Nyarko.
And now, while we have a little bit of time before we see everything spawn up and the game begin in earnest, given the fact that we have the invade dissuaded, I want to focus on the fact that Stephen Hawking 69 is not only level 1400 and something, but also, while maybe they aren't playing Rek'Sai a whole lot so far this season, they still have 3 million mastery points on this champion. And so, Aulz, I'm starting to become a little bit more afraid about what this player is going to be able to do to impact the map in favor of Ban Out Bunny.
Yeah, Rek'Sai, despite having a few minor updates to their kind of structure over the years, really hasn't lost a whole bunch. As we see some interesting play here from Super Swaggy, looking to get a perhaps level 1 steal with the Sonic Wave Resonating Strike. This is very bold, considering this beach is in, but he's stolen the buff and he's going to get out. Nyarko, what?
Yeah, and the fact that Sebastian is only there on the buff helping with the leash means that Shangdi is able to protect Super Swaggy if they are, in fact, struggling to move away. But they're just going to flash the wall, and they're going to move to safety, getting out like a bandit, and the bad guys are off to a really strong start.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate loss of the flash there. Very useful for Lee Sin, especially in the early game, when they don't necessarily have a ton of control wards in pocket to make use of for the ward hop shenanigans. But getting Stephen Hawking behind, stealing that buff, having the capacity to try buff here, assuming the Rek'Sai doesn't manage to sneak their own red buff back, as we see Zarkra going in very deep to get some more vision on Stephen Hawking, should put Super Swaggy pretty far ahead and make it harder for Stephen Hawking to get efficient ganks off.
That's a very smart call. They know that Stephen Hawking is going to be rotating down, but also the Rek'Sai doesn't have that great of chase potential right now. Spastic and Master of Targon, being on Zeriyumi, are kind of forced towards the tower, and therefore we're in a position where the bad guys kind of control the tempo of this early game, and I don't expect that to change regardless of these smaller micro-macro plays, if I'm able to coin a new term here.
Myacros, as one would say.
Myacro. Nyarko, as people call me all the time for some reason.
Hey, it's fine. I normally get a lose.
A lose is actually completely off course. I mean, you gotta flip the L and the U for that to work at all, my man.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That being said, looking at the map here, I am a little bit concerned about the positioning of Koronic. They've been very pushed up. They don't have any wards available. If Stephen Hawking goes towards this mid lane after clearing this Rift Scuttler here, that Zyra could be in range of at least losing a flash or potentially even more, and we do in fact see Stephen Hawking moving that way.
I like the fact that there's coverage here from the Lee Sin, but is it too little too late? Koronic is going to be wombo comboed into the WE from the Talia, and that is first blood for Pebblist, who I just realized has a very fitting name. The Ignite is gone, and that means that Super Swaggy has the confidence to try to trade back by jumping in, but it's a 2v1 and not a whole lot to deal with. Zarkra, meanwhile, bot side is going forward, looking for a play. Spastic is able to trade back quite a bit of damage, though Master of Targon is still holding on to heal, and it looks like because of that, the Zeri is going to get out alive. Koronic teleported back into the mid lane to punish Stephen Hawking even further, but still, TBG in both the bot and mid plays aren't able to get a kill back, and in fact, Zarkra and Panstick are kind of coming out unfavored in that because of the fact that they blew 2 summoner spells.
Yeah, that's unfortunate here. Koronic looking to back now after pushing this. I really don't like this from the Zyra. You've already used the TP. Yes, you're going to get the wave to reset here courtesy of the turret, but that's a lot of time that you're wasting that you could have been using to roam about the map and try and get some of this gold back here. You've got a small CS lead, but this time here alone in the mid-wave should let Pebblist pick it up somewhat. I'm really concerned by the way the bad guys are moving about the map right now.
I mean, losing first blood is actually pretty backbreaking for a team composition like this. They're so heavily indexed into the early game that now, if they cannot accelerate through topside, which seems to be the case with Super Swaggy moving up into this Tribush versus Sebastian, we could just be seeing Bob have a very easy early to mid game that is going to precipitate into basically unbeatable team fighting.
Yeah, Sebastian is a little bit low on both mana and health here. And Shang-Di has hit level 6, so I'm looking for the dive to occur here. If Sebastian does get that call of the Forge God, this could become a very dangerous proposition, though.
It's going to be hard to displace the Ornn from the tower, though. Super Swaggy, not level 6, and Sebastian also has the flash. They're going to use that, and now Super Swaggy's taking quite a few tower shots. He's kind of overstaying at only 200 health. Where the heck is he supposed to go now? Sebastian is now going to be the one on the aggressor stance. They just jump forward, and that is an unmitigated disaster for the bad guys.
Really an unforced error as well. They knew that Sebastian was going to be hard to displace. Now calling the Forge God aggressively here is going to pay for it with his life.
Yeah, I don't really know what Sebastian was playing at there. Peblist is coming up, so I think maybe they thought they could get a better 2v1. But Shang-Di is just so strong at this point in the game. It was only the Lee Sin that died, remember? And Sebastian wasn't able to cash out quite yet. And so that means that going for the Alawi when you are down on health is such an awkward call. And Ban Out Bunny will lose one there.
Yeah, especially with the Leap of Faith available for the Alawi, it becomes so difficult to fight. The healing from the tentacle slams, the cooldown reduction on the W, especially early, just makes it so hard to cut through the Alawi. And when you're an Ornn that has 400 health and next to no mana, you just can't take that fight.
Really quick, while we do have a little bit of downtime as Ban Out Bunny moves up to just get some vision over this Hextech Drake in the river, I do want to editorialize, why is Alawi's ultimate called Leap of Faith when I think she more clearly leaps forward with her W?
Because her entire champion kit is all about faith. It's about forcing... Her champion design is about testing people's faith in her god by feats of force.
Nah. So I understand that her E is called Test of Faith. That makes sense. Her W and R should be switched because the harsh lesson is exactly what Sebastian got there, jumping into Alawi W. The harsh lesson is don't freaking do that.
Please, do not be stupid. This is no stupid area here.
And then Leap of Faith still makes sense for the W because, like I said, you're leaping. I understand she, like, jumps up and then, like, slams down, but that's not really a Leap of Faith, which to me implies crossing a gap. But, you know, we're just kind of spinning our wheels here. Shang-Di is going to get another Test of Faith off at the very least. And, oh, look at that tentacle setup. Poor Sebastian. The fact of the matter is, because Sebastian isn't going to really work as well with gold as the Alawi is early, this is kind of a lane that, frankly, is over in advantage to TBG. It doesn't mean that this is a lane that ends the game, as you can occasionally see when someone gets really far behind versus an Alawi, but Ornn from behind just really isn't able to do a whole lot against this champion, but take the abuse. And now we're seeing TBG also pivot over. They've gotten themselves first dragon, but I love the fact that there's this huge red squad mob trying to rush down Shang-Di before the Alawi gets out of hand. Peblist is going to be hit by the Test of Faith. Shang-Di has the ultimate backup. Peblist is getting whittled low, but unfortunately, the Alawi just does not have the healing right now. Call of the Forge God barely needed, and that's going to be a 3v1 in favor of BOB.
Yeah, and full credit to the Rek'Sai ultimate there, the Void Rush, for buying so much time. Stephen Hawking taking a lot of that early damage from the Alawi after the Leap of Faith, letting her focus the Rek'Sai all the way down, and then using that Void Rush to make sure that nobody else was low enough to actually start a fight. As we do see a dive in this bot lane.
Spastic, though, is honestly staying pretty healthy because of the Yuumi ultimate and heal, and Zarkra's just dead, and Lee Sin's unable to do anything. Now, Spastic is getting a 2v1 versus Pants check and is able to re-pivot over here to force the Lee Sin off the Gromp. Super Swaggy's in so much trouble. They are not going to be able to escape out from under this champion. I do like the fact that they're still going to try to go in and trade against this, but great Prowling Projectile is going to stop them before they even make contact with the Zeri. That's Ban Out Bunny with another one. Karonic is now in trouble because of Stephen Hawking hovering mid.
So, Nyarko, I'm starting to get a feel for why this team named themselves the Bad Guys. It's because they're really bad at executing dives.
Yeah, Ban Out Bunny has not really justified their name quite yet, as I don't really even know if there's a rabbit champion except for, like, Cottontail Timo. But regardless, it's probably good if you're not fitting your name at this point, because the bad guys is struggling right now. Zarko tried to go for a gank against Pebblist, and the Kaleo is just able to walk straight away from that dredge line. There's nothing more painful than when you're a Nautilus and you get a really good roam. You just have to lane Q, you don't do it.
Yeah, I will give credit where credit is due. Koronic has taken 4 plates off this turret. Shangdi has taken 2 plates off the top turret. There's a plate taken off the bottom turret. That's 7 plates total taken in comparison to just 1 that has been taken by Ban Out Bunny so far. So that's a lot of gold that the bad guys team has gotten that has kept them in the game. In fact, the gold difference is even, largely predicated off of huge CS gaps in the solo lanes.
The thing for me, though, is that Ban Out Bunny is kind of in a position where I think they're probably expecting and fine with first turrets going down in favor of the bad guys. It's just a matter of how hard they power spike at 2 to 3 items, while TVG really isn't going to get stronger than they are right now, at least relative to Ban Out Bunny. I want to see some kills, and I want to see a clear gold advantage over to TVG right now, rather than them just keeping the gold pretty much within striking distance.
Although, if they make it to the mid to late game even, it does start to beg the question of when the Alawi gets the Thunderer and potentially picks up a Hole Breaker.
Oh, Zarkra.
Pebblist in trouble here.
Yeah, that was a great call. Use the depth charge first, and now, unfortunately, Pebblist has nowhere to go. The shutdown does go over to the Nautilus, which is definitely not preferable for TVG, but I like the fact that they're still playing proactively on the map. They know that they are still well within striking distance of Ban Out Bunny. If anything, they win the isolated fights to a degree. They are individually more powerful right now, and because that is the case, this cross map is able to get a lot for Stephen Hawking and company bot, but this game is not out of the woods for BOB yet.
I still do have the question as well that I started to ask before that dive onto Pebblist. When Shangdi gets to that Hole Breaker, gets the completed Divine Thunderer, and maybe gets a tank item or 2 here, the Dead Man's Blade or something else in their pocket, who responds to the Alawi? The Ornn is just going to keep getting bullied out. Pebblist doesn't have TP, so is going to be very reliant on that Weaver's Wall, as we do see Spastic getting caught out also here by Zarkra.
They still have the wall right up, and unfortunately there's not really a way to interfere with that unless Super Swaggy is just perfectly on top of it with Q, although now Spastic going back in alongside the hook from Zarkra definitely doesn't feel great. Now they have to flash back, and that is going to be a moment of vulnerability for the Zeri going forward.
Yeah, Zeri now has to play a little bit carefully. We are starting to see a CS deficit in the bot lane as well. Pants check, despite not exactly winning early game, doing a good job of controlling that lane, keeping the gold fairly even, only down about 300 at the moment. Does look like they're going to lose the second Drake of the game, so that puts it even at 1-1. What kind of soul are we expecting this evening, Nyarko?
I would like to see Cloud Soul. I think that it's very silly on champions like Rek'Sai and Zeri. And I think it's also pretty good for TVG, given the fact that they're emphasizing side lanes, giving extra mobility to the likes of Shangdi through stacking Cloud Drakes is going to be really valuable for allowing for them to kind of play on the razor's edge, right? Take some team fights, or at least withhold Ban Out Bunny from taking team fights while the Alawi is just zooming topside or bot, jamming away at these towers.
Unfortunately, it is Infernal Soul here, which means more fighting, Nyarko. Always a fan of more fighting.
I think that I honestly, in my old casterly age, I'm becoming less and less of a fan of fighting, because I'm understanding that you color casters have a lot of fun times cracking jokes and just kind of sitting back. You know, it's stressful. What if I screw up my caster call when a fight happens, right? Stephen Hawking, though, on the far side of this play, is certainly struggling more than I am right now, but the Void Rush on top of Super Swaggy is going to lay all suspicions that the Rek'Sai is going down. They will be able to escape. Pebblist is not so lucky. It is a 1-for-1.
1-for-1, however, this bot lane continuing to trade pretty aggressively. And it looks like the Alawi and Zyra are still looking for more in this fight as the Call of the Forge God's going down here, Nyarko.
Oh, no.
Flash.
Yeah, Karani has to flash, but unfortunately Stephen Hawking gets right on top of them. Unfortunately, Banao Bunny didn't expect Shangdi to rotate down. That's one falling. Sebastian's in a lot of trouble. Playing Tentacle Time, and the Leap of Faith, excuse me, the W that should be called Leap of Faith is going to secure a double-double for Shangdi. Spastic, though, is answering back with a rampage of their own down bot side. Nautilus falls. Pant Check is forced under tower.
Yeah, however, Super Swaggy in the area. Pant Check does have the curtain call. The Spastic has to be a little bit careful here. Can't continue to overpush. Super Swaggy still unseen in this tri-bush. Looks like they're going to get the drop on this Zeri.
No summoner spells available. Spastic at this point just kind of has to hope that they're able to get a kill before they fall. Great route there by Pants Check, and yeah, that Spastic just gone in an instant. And now Master of Targon, being a Yuumi, has nowhere to escape to. This curtain call is completely unnecessary, let's be real.
I agree with it here. Pants Check was fairly low, so walking up would have been potentially dangerous. The Prowling Projectile does a disproportionate amount of damage at this point in the game, so safer to take that kill from far away. Great job by Super Swaggy to give the vision and give the kill over there. Goodbye, Stephen Hawking. It was nice knowing you.
And this game is broken wide open. I said the bad guys needed a substantial gold lead before all these turrets fell and the early game is over with. And now at the 16-minute mark, they have accomplished that. 3,000 up right now versus Banao Bunny. I'm going to say it again. We're not out of the woods quite yet, but this time it's the bad guys who really have kind of staked a claim as favorites in this one. Shangdi is going to have a nice little 1v1 versus Sebastian after the tier 1 falls. Pablos is rotating up, but it's just so scary to take a fight against an Alawi right now, particularly one that is as fed as Shangdi's. That's Black Cleaver completed alongside the tank boots. They are going to go down, hop on top with the Eve versus the Talia, who just has to stay on the periphery of this fight as they're drained for even more, and less than 100 health makes this almost a disaster as Zarkra is also up here. Sebastian has nowhere to go. Stephen Hawking has to be the one to come in and try to defend this play, but Pants Check following up is going to try to snipe away at Pebbleston and the like. Zeri as well is just pushing down the bot side of the map, but is it worth it when Alawi is ravaging your top with a double kill so far, and Pebbles also falls, making that a 3-0 in favor of the bad guys.
Yeah, they're going to push this top side, and more dangerously on the bot side, which is now left alone because the Zeri roamed away, is the Rift Herald. So they could break 3 turrets in as many minutes here in Nyarko. The game just snowballing out of control, and this Alawi now at 5-1 with the fully completed Black Cleaver Rush, looking to move towards their second item. Sitting on 2,300 gold, Nyarko is looking to be in pretty good carry shape right now.
And honestly, we're at a point right now where Shangdi doesn't actually have to try to split the Banao Bunny whatsoever. They're going to be in an immensely powerful split pusher regardless of how they build, just by virtue of being so ahead on gold. And so now you can go a little bit more towards some tankier items to work as a fellow frontliner to the likes of Zarkra, and the 5v5s are just delicious and wonderful for the bad guys right now. There's so much to be able to feast upon, given the fact that Spastic is a relatively short-ranged AD carry that hasn't really found themselves the advantage I think that they were hoping for. The bad guys have to kind of just watch to see where the Zeri goes. Then you jump on top of her, and she has no real means of escape once her dash is down.
Yeah, this is a Zeri that is very strong on the current patch. Of course, the Triforce into the eventual Titanic Hydra is a very overtuned, to put it nicely, build that I think we all thought we had finally gotten away from with the old changes to legendary items. That has, of course, changed. Stephen Hawking once again caught out, forced to use that Void Rush defensively here.
I like this call. The Forge got in the attempt to flank down onto Super Swaggy, but the Lee Sin will call their bluff, just jump forward, and actually is trying to get out, even with a resonating strike. Spastic eventually is going to take them down, but now the Zeri Yuumi have been whittled too low to deal with the fact that Shangdi is rotating in. Sebastian is trying to do the best they can as a frontliner, but eventually they just have to headbutt away, and there's so much follow-up from TBG. Shangdi is going to be able to kill the Ornn, force the bot lane to Banao Bunny off of this river, and now it's going to be another dragon over to TBG.
Yeah, this is only their second Drake of the game, so we are looking at about a 30-minute Drake Soul, which, given how we've seen leagues played in recent months, seems unlikely to happen here in Nyarko. But if it were to hit, that Infernal Soul would be very powerful for a team that includes an Alawi and a Zyra, popping off those every 4 seconds, more or less, on cooldown here. But that being said, taking stock of this game, Nyarko, it is 14-9. It is 38,000 gold to 30. The bad guys are firmly in control.
And credit to Koronic, I was really skeptical about the solo lane Zyra, given the fact that your burden as a mid laner is to really pump the damage. And they've been doing a great job not only sitting in the right place during team fights, but also they're side laning excessively well. And they're doing so in such a way that Ban Out Bunny hasn't been able to answer back against the Plant Lady. And so therefore, the bad guys have gotten 2 champions who are above the 9k gold mark at the 20-minute point. And therefore, the bad guys are very well confident trying to angle for a very early Baron in this.
Yeah, I really expected Stephen Hawking to try and punish Koronic more in the early game, but outside of that gank around the 5-minute mark, really just has not done anything to harass this Zyra and allowing her to scale, allowing her to get the Leandries and the Rylais has just added more threats to this bad guy's lineup. I really feel like that's a missed opportunity for Ban Out Bunny that they'll have to try and address in game 2.
And unfortunately, the statement being made here in game number 1, Aulz, is just that TBG has better laners. And unfortunately, I think that they're able to kind of draft the same way again. And what is the response when you feel you're just going to have the weaker earlier game? Sure, you can continue to index towards scaling, but you could just get a repeat of what's happening here in game number 1, where we have an 8k gold lead at the 21-minute mark and a Baron well below half health now in favor of TBG. Or Ban Out Bunny could try to match fire with fire, go hard early, and maybe do something versus the bad guys. But I don't really know if that's going to work in your favor, as they just seem so strong right now. Koronic doing a great job, also knocking Pebblist off of their wall on the far side. They're going to struggle to be able to use their WE combo. Koronic just flashes the Weaver's wall alongside the knockup, and therefore they get a double kill down bot right as the Baron had fallen. And now Shangdi, because of that distraction, is able to just start working on this tier 3 top.
That is incredible here, Nyarko. 2 solo laners tried to take on Koronic. Neither could find purchase. The Zyra getting 2 kills in her pocket. Now well on her way to the Rabadon's death cap. If there is any way to prove that this game is out of control, it's a Zyra picking up solo kills left and right.
Backbreaking 10k gold lead right now for the bad guys. And now it's looking more like they're just the antagonists, the arch enemies of Ban Out Bunny, rather than being bad at anything really important at this point in the game. Tower dives, ganks be damned. The laning phase is well and truly over with, and they have demonstrated their ability to push and pull Ban Out Bunny across the map. And now Red Spot is perpetually on the back, and this is so awkward. Super Swaggy is
that was a choice?
I'm not really sure what they were going for.
What they were going for is to be the first item in our OCL clips channel from Season 5. Let's see someone clip that, put that in the Discord, because that is, that was something right there.
This is literally the single most caster curse thing that's ever happened, where it's like, typically caster curses occur when you're singing the praises of a team, and then that team makes a mistake. This is caster cursing on another level. This isn't even a mistake. This is just the team hears the praise coming their direction somehow from the future, as we are on a 3-minute delay, and they decide, yeah, let me just run it down in perfect synchronicity with the fact that we're trying to put the series away in favor of the bad guys.
Yeah. Speaking of putting the series away, though, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago before Koronic's double kill that you were wondering what Ban Out Bunny could do here for Game 2. And
apparently piss off the Lee Sin.
Yeah, you know, weak mentals, junglers, happens every time. But all jokes aside, the rule of thumb that I've always heard from players at this level is when in doubt, always return to fundamentals. Something that is super easy to execute on, something that is next to impossible to screw up, like a Malphite Yasuo. Something where as long as y'all have your monitors on and your fingers on the keyboard, you can't lose the game.
It looks like we're
That being
having
said,
jungle issues on both sides. That was Stephen Hawking DCing. We are back and I believe still synchronized in this one. And unfortunately, Sebastian is dead as Bad Out Buddy attempt to mount some kind of
Swaggy?
defense as all these towers are falling. Super Swaggy yet again is kind of grieving it, but still manages to get a kill and might actually get out. Spastic has to flash into ultimate in order to kill the Lee Sin, but that brings him within striking distance of the Zyra and Nautilus. And meanwhile, we have the Alawi and Pants check on the Jin, working on this inhibitor top side. Start with a little hiccup once again. That happens when you have freezes. It looks like we're back onto the Rift, though. Zarkra and Koronic do have to respect Spastic right now, as this area is kind of uncontrolled, and Pebbles gets a great seismic shove. Koronic's in a lot of trouble, trying to get out from under Spastic, but Zarkra just lands a killing blow off of the Nautilus passive root, and now Pebbles is split. Pansec is chasing them with fourth shot. They're able to 1/3 health to Talia with a single auto attack, and then clean up with a double-double versus the Yuumi.
Just madness here, Nyarko. We are looking at 33 kills in 25 minutes, more than a kill a minute. Both these teams, I would say playing their hearts out, but perhaps playing despite their hearts is more accurate with some of these plays that we've been seeing. But I do think that at this point, short of every member of Blue Squad getting disconnected, this game is almost certainly going to fall in favor of the bad guys here.
Yeah, that is going to be the soul of Rek'Sai, holding on until one more tentacle slap will put them back into what I like to call tentacle time, but I already said tentacle once during that sentence. And now the term tentacle is really starting to lose any kind of luster. Tentacle, 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 tentacle.
Yeah, you know, if you run out of tentacles, you can always step down to ninetacles. They're basically the same thing.
Yeah, I also do want to, while we're in yet again downtime as Soul Point is crested by the bad guys, editorialize really quickly and call it Super Swaggy in particular. It's kind of BM, especially during, you know, the inaugural game of a competitive season, to run it down jokingly, even if it isn't like losing your team the game. It's just kind of a sign of disrespect versus Fan Out Bunny, and I don't think that we should stand for that here in the OCL.
Hey, you know, we've had a long history of teams performing interesting things. So I think running it down is the least of all our worries, as much as I do agree that perhaps there are better ways to show your displeasure with your Jhin for stealing your chickens.
Also, guys, you're in call together. Can't you, you know, just discuss who's getting chickens? Maybe I'm just wrong about the level of communication we're supposed to be getting within our OCL teams, but yeah, it just kind of feels like the bad guys have made themselves the villains with a dominant performance here, you know. It's kind of that real anime villain showing of how strong they are as a group. And now it's going to be up to our scrappy protagonists to try to come back for game number 2, as this first match is all but over. I love this curtain call, just covering and putting out damage versus Fan Out Bunny. Call of the Forge God is used, but it really only hits Zarkra, who's able to just take through it all. And now with the depth charge, they're able to isolate Spastic, get the jump in, and now even though the Nautilus will fall for doing so, Stephen Hawking has no health to deal with. Their super minions screaming into the base. Jhin, with some crazy snipes, is able to take down Stephen Hawking 69, and this is going to be first game over to TBG.
Yeah, the Nexus isn't quite dead yet. Pebbles could manage to hold on. The health bars are a little bit low here, but no, the game will end. Had to hold out hope till the last second there, Nyarko.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Ban Out Bunny that the game just kind of fell apart at the seams. Once we saw Shangdi cover into what became a 3-0 victory, things felt completely out of hand. Ban Out Bunny went for some more desperation plays as well. You saw the palpable tension and desperation in the air as Stephen Hawking tried to sneak a Rift Herald, but they just gave it over to Koronic, who cracked the tier 1 tower bot side, leaving everything open for Alawi to then split push from there on forward. And the bad guys also just played the map perfectly, getting vision prior to the Baron, and then as soon as that big purple worm spawned up, they started it as soon as they had that distraction being made by Koronic, who then 2v1 Pebblist and Sebastian, I believe. So it's really kind of textbook play with some fringes of, once again, power tripping, Super Swaggy running it down, you know, some of that kind of stuff can be tempered alongside those early attempted ganks from Super Swaggy that almost led to these side lanes losing in Ban Out Bunny, having this kind of hope for the mid to late game. So as long as they're able to temper those kinds of drives, I believe that we're going to be seeing a 2-0 here tonight.
Yeah, however, this is OCL, and all kinds of shenanigans are always the norm here in this wonderful, wonderful league. That being said, we're going to step aside for just a couple of minutes to get into Game 2, but when we come back, does Ban Out Bunny fall 2-0, or can they force a third game? We'll have the answers right here, so stick around, folks.